we were up in Ruidoso one time and went to a chuck wagon cook-off, and Richard Farnsworth, the movie actor, and some other guys, Bud Reno and so forth, they had a wagon. We went over and ate with them, and it looked pretty cool. You know, everything was historical, and the food was, I wouldn't say it was great, but it was different. It was chuck wagon food. It was, you know, off the campfire. And decided that was pretty cool. And then we went back the next year, and there was a guy from Jim Shirley from Lubbock area or somewhere. He had a big fancy nice wagon, and we ate with them. And I remember Skip and I were sitting over we were really sitting over there on a log, like a bump on a log, and I said, Skip, we can do this. He said, what do you mean? Because we had said that before when we were we were doing dune buggies one time, and I said, Skip, let's do some dune buggies. So we built dune buggies. So here we are again. So he said, well, okay. So anyway, it was shortly after that I started looking for a wagon, and I found one with the El Paso connection out here, and I bought a wagon from him that came out of Veracruz, Mexico. It was being used as an old coffee wagon to haul coffee back and forth to the market. And I outfitted it with a chuck box and so forth, and we started cooking, and we cooked our first cook-off in Ruidoso no, I back that back. Our first one was in Odessa. It was about 96, I believe. And then the next one was in Ruidoso, and just Skip and I, and oh boy, did we not know what we were doing. But we managed to get it, and we fed 50 people, and we were so tired when that was over with. I don't think I've ever been as tired in all my life, both mentally and physically. It was just really something else. But we got through it, and we cooked chuck wagon competitions for years and years. And we were cooking down in Hondo, Texas. Skip Clark and me and Steve Woods, and Skip was managing the peach. No, excuse me. Skip was managing the chicken fried steak, and I don't remember the exact issue about it, but it was something that I told him that I'd take the meat and dip it in the flour, and then dip it in the sourdough mixture, and then go back in the flour. Well, Skip did it backwards and did it, you know, he did it in the sourdough, whichever way it was. He did it in one, and I said do it in the other one, you know. And I hadn't lived that down, but I said, and I chewed on him a little bit, and we won. And every year he's, hey, you want me to take care of the chicken fried steak? Oh boy. Anyway, another year, it could have been the same year, because I think it was in Hondo, but it might have been a different year. But anyway, was cooking 2 pots of, one was peach cobbler and another one was beans. And it was time to put the chili powder from Hatch chili powder into the beans. And, you know, this is long about, 11 o'clock, 11:30, and we got to serve it in 15 minutes. And so I go over there and I get my chili powder and a big old spoon of it, and I went, whoop, and it was in the peach cobbler. And I thought, oh, crap. So I got a big old spoon, and you know how chili powder in liquid, it just goes whoosh, like that. And I was throwing it all out, and I finally got it in the beans, but we won the peach cobbler. That was a funny one. So every time after that we cooked peach cobbler, we'd always take a little bit of chili powder and put it in our peach cobbler. I got to tell you a story about Wendell Walker, a friend of mine that I taught in high school. He and I have a little air conditioner business, but he had, I'd invited him to come over and help us. And he said, sure, I'll help you. Oh, yeah. So this was, you start a day in a competition about 4:30 or 5 o'clock. And this was about 9:30 or 10 o'clock in the morning. I looked over and Wendell was asleep underneath the oak tree. I said, "Hey, Wendell, ¿qué pasó? What are you doing, bud? We got another 6-8 hours to go." And after it was over, he says, "Man, I tell you what, when you get ready to do this again next year, don't frickin' call me." He said, "This is a whole bunch of work." Anyway, that was fun. We were up in Ruidoso, and a guy named Scotty called me, and he says, "Hey, we're with RFD Food Network channel and so forth, and we want to do a segment up there at Ruidoso, and kind of a hands-on sort of deal." And I said, "Well, sure, Scotty, come on." Scotty Cobb, I think is his name. And I said, "Sure, come on. We'll do whatever you want to do." So he comes up there, and they had their camera crew and their lighting crew, and the gal that was the one that was holding the microphone and in the camera shots. She was I'm not sure what her title was, but she was very excited about it. And we were going to make kolaches. And heck, I'd never made kolaches before. In fact, I didn't even come up with the idea until he called and said we were going to do something. So I thought, well, we need to do something a little different. So I can't think of the girl's name that was doing it, but we decided to do fruit kolaches. And we were using that same bread recipe that Jerry Baird gave us as the basis. And then I think we had to use fruit. I think we had to use apricot. And so she came in and I said, "Well, what do you want to do?" She said, "Well, I want to really get into it." And I said, "Well, you got those gorgeous fingernails. Do you really want to get in here and knead the dough and so forth?" She was a pretty nice looking girl. And I said, "Do you really want to do that?" And she said, "Oh, yeah, I do." I said, "Okay." And so we had we're cooking kolaches for 50, 60 people, whatever it was. And so we had this great big old tub, and she's in there kneading that dough and doing it like that. And we were putting them out there, putting the thumb in it, putting the apricots in it. And boy, they were filming, and she was having a good time. We were laughing and giggling. And boy, she was excited, and so we got it all done, and we fed everybody, and this was at noon, and I think the awards were at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And so I asked her, and I said, "Well, are y'all going to stick around?" She said, "Oh, yeah, we're going to stick around." Well, she just knew we were going to win this thing slam dunk. Well, I thought we might too. Actually, it was pretty good grub. And so they announced, they announced whatever it was, 4th place. They didn't call us. Yeah. 3rd place, they didn't call us. Yes. 2nd place. All right, we got this. And then they called 1st place, and it was somebody else. we couldn't believe it. I looked over out of the corner of my eye. They were filming all of this. And I swear to goodness, I thought she was going to cry. She was more upset than we were because she really thought that was a winner. And we did too. And, that's like the cobbler I talked about with the chili powder. I didn't think we'll get anything we want. Whenever you think that you're not going to win, you put together some really good food. Sometimes you think that's the best I can do, and then you don't get anything. So you just never know. But that was a funny one. We made some really special kolaches, and she worked her little hands to the bone doing it. And she thought they were going to be a RFD slam dunk, and nothing. But back to reality, In a Chuck Wagon Association, when you go out and cook, you have meat, bread, beans, potatoes, and dessert. And when I was talking about we were cooking the cobbler and the beans, well, that's a whole different thing. You got to get all 5 of those things ready. For usually in the competition, you're going to feed 50 people more or less. And you have to be right on time. They give you like a 5-minute window or something like that if it's due at, you're supposed to turn in at 11:45, the next guy's going to be turning in at 11:50, and then 50, and if you're not there on time, you're kaput. the food is really interesting about as far as how it fits in with the chuck wagon and so forth. And I got interested and involved with the American Chuck Wagon Association years ago, and I was at the right place at the wrong time, and I got elected president of the association. And during that presidency, we started developing the foods that would be available on a chuck wagon and the methods by which they are cooked. And so we began making guidelines for the food and the food prep and things that you wouldn't necessarily have, like mayonnaise. You wouldn't have mayonnaise. Now, there's lots of chuck wagons across the country that don't allow you to have cheese or put cheese in your menus. And I have not ever figured out why. I honest to God wish somebody could tell me, because they've had cheese forever, you know. Jesus ate cheese. Why wouldn't you have it on the chuck wagon? The chuck wagon itself is just pretty cool. And like Skip and I sitting on that stump one day, I said, "Hey, Skip, we can do this." And that was, I don't know what, 25, 30 years ago. But here we go. That's a story. I'm sticking to it.